Discover the hidden secrets behind the books of Maccabees, a fascinating story from the Old Testament. Welcome to our Fascinating Finds channel, where we uncover hidden truths and reveal fascinating narratives found in ancient biblical texts. Today, we'll delve into the hidden secrets of the books of Maccabees. 3 extraordinary books, often overlooked or excluded from mainstream Christian teaching. The Revolt of Mabon, recounted in the first book of Maccabees, represents one of the most significant moments in Jewish history. In the 2nd century before Christ, during the oppression of the Seleucid Empire under the reign of Antiochus IV, the Jews were forced to abandon their religious traditions in favor of Hellenistic culture and pagan worship. The desecration of the temple in Jerusalem and the imposition of pagan sacrifices led to a revolt led by Mattathias, a Jewish priest. Faced with the demand to sacrifice to Zeus, Mattathias refused and, in an act of courage and unwavering faith, killed the official representing the king. This act sparked the revolt known as the Maccabean Revolt, which was led by his son Judas Maccabeus, also called Judas Maccabeus. The name Maccabeus means the hammer, reflecting his ferocity and determination in fighting the Seleucid forces. The Maccabean Revolt was not just a conventional war. It was a battle for the preservation of Jewish religious identity and resistance against foreign oppression. The events described in the first book of Maccabees show how the faith, courage, and determination of the Jewish people led them to defy a powerful empire in the name of their belief in God and religious freedom. Part 2. After the death of Mattathias, his son Judas Maccabeus took over the leadership of the revolt against the Seleucid Empire, known as the Stuff. In the 3rd part of our journey through the books of Maccabees, we are led to contemplate the courage of the martyrs and their deep belief in the resurrection. The 2nd book of Maccabees presents us with a moving account of a mother and her 7 sons who, faced with persecution by King Antiochus IV Epiphanes, chose to face death with unshakable faith. Each son, one after the other, refused to renounce their Jewish faith and worship pagan gods, facing terrible tortures with an unshakable conviction in divine justice and the promise of resurrection. The mother, witnessing the sacrifice of all her sons, encouraged them to remain steadfast in their faith, reminding them of God's promises. This testimony of martyrdom and faith reminds us that there are values higher than life itself, and that the hope of eternal life can sustain believers even in the darkest moments. In the 4th part of our journey through the book of Maccabees, we enter the battlefield to witness divine interventions that defied the laws of nature. During the battle at Bethsur, the Jewish forces led by Judas Maccabeus faced a numerically superior enemy and seemed destined for defeat. However, at a crucial moment, 5 magnificent men mounted on horses with golden bridles appeared on the battlefield. These were not mere men. They were angels sent by God to protect Judas Maccabeus and his army. The angels rained arrows and lightning down on the enemy, wreaking havoc and ensuring victory for the Jewish people. Describing how these heavenly beings surrounded Judas, keeping him unharmed while they launched divine attacks against the enemy, the book of Maccabees reveals the constant presence of God in the battles fought in the name of faith and righteousness. In the 5th part of our journey through the books of Maccabees, we are transported to a moment of prophetic vision and the delivery of a sacred sword to Judas Maccabeus. During the night before a decisive battle, Judas is visited in a dream by the prophet Jeremiah, who hands him a shining golden sword. Jeremiah, with his deep voice and flaming eyes, reveals to Judas that this sword is a gift from God, a symbol of the divine power granted to the Maccabean leader to protect his people and ensure victory over their enemies. The sword represents not only a physical weapon, but also the promise of divine presence and intervention in the most crucial moments of the struggle for religious freedom. As he takes up the sacred sword, Judas feels a supernatural strength flow through his veins, renewing his determination and faith in the cause for which he and his followers are willing to fight and die. This prophetic vision marks a turning point in the Maccabean journey, strengthening the leader and his army for the challenges that lie ahead. In the 6th part of our exploration of the books of Maccabees, we highlight the pivotal role of women in resisting oppression. In a time marked by persecution and challenges, Jewish women played prominent roles, demonstrating an unwavering strength of faith and courage. In addition to the mother who witnessed the martyrdom of her 7 sons with dignity and hope in the resurrection, other women stood out as leaders and defenders of the Jewish cause. Their voices echoed in the halls of power and on the battlefields, inspiring men and women to remain steadfast in their faith in the face of adversity. The stories of these warrior women remind us that the struggle for religious freedom and justice transcends gender boundaries, and that courage and determination have no limits when grounded in faith in God. May these stories inspire us all to value the role of women in the history of faith and resistance. In the 7th part of our journey through the books of Maccabees, we are transported to the battle at Migdal Safar, a confrontation that tested the limits of the faith and endurance of the Jewish people. In this epic setting, the forces led by Judas Maccabeus faced an army vastly superior in numbers and resources. As the enemy soldiers advanced with determination, the hearts of the Jewish fighters were filled with supernatural courage. Suddenly, at the height of the battle, a storm formed in the sky. Thunder boomed and lightning illuminated the battlefield. What seemed like imminent disaster turned into a moment of divine intervention. The furious winds changed direction, and torrential rain began to fall on the enemy ranks, causing confusion and chaos among them. While the Seleucid soldiers struggled to stand their ground in the face of the supernatural storm, the Jewish forces advanced with renewed determination and faith in divine protection. This miraculous intervention not only turned the tide of battle in favor of the Maccabees, but also strengthened the Jewish people's belief in God's constant presence in their most difficult struggles. In the 8th part of our immersion in the books of Maccabees, we are led to contemplate the presence of the guardian angels and their supernatural intervention at crucial moments of battle. During a decisive confrontation between the forces led by Judas Maccabeus and the enemy armies, when victory seemed distant and hope was fading, something extraordinary happened. From the heavens, radiant celestial beings descended, with shining wings and flaming eyes, ready to fight alongside the faithful Jews. These guardian angels not only inspired courage in the hearts of the human combatants, but also wielded divine weapons capable of defeating their adversaries with a force beyond human comprehension. Their voices resounded like thunder on the battlefield, instilling fear in the hearts of the enemies and renewing the determination of the defenders of the faith. As the gleaming swords of the angels cut through the air and their divine shields protected the righteous, it became clear that the battle was not just physical, but spiritual. The presence of these heavenly messengers reaffirmed the belief in God's direct intervention in earthly affairs and the constant protection granted to those who trust in His justice and power. In the 9th part of our exploration of the books of Maccabees, we are transported to the 3rd revolt, a moment of defiance and resistance against political oppression in Alexandria. Unlike the battles fought on Jewish soil, this revolt takes place in a distant context, in the heart of Egypt. The Jews living in Alexandria face a new form of persecution, no longer on the battlefield, but in the corridors of political power. The ruler of Egypt at the time, King Ptolemy IV, after a military victory over Antiochus III, decides to defy the Jews by demanding access to the Holy of Holies in the Temple of Jerusalem. This direct affront to the Jewish faith sets in motion a series of extraordinary events. When King Ptolemy tries to enter the sacred site, he is repelled by an invisible force that paralyzes and momentarily blinds him. This miraculous event not only humiliates the king in front of the Jews, but also awakens in him a desire for revenge against the entire Jewish community scattered throughout Egypt. Ptolemy Rum devises a sinister plan to round up all the Jews in Alexandria and publicly execute them under the feet of raging elephants. This cruel order echoes the atrocities committed by other tyrannical rulers in biblical history and places the Jews in imminent existential danger. Yet, amid the terrifying prospect of imminent death, the Jews turn to God in prayer and fasting, seeking His divine intervention in their darkest hours. The story of the 3rd Maccabean revolt reminds us that unwavering faith and trust in God's providence are powerful weapons against political oppression, and that God always protects those who call for his justice. In the 10th part of our immersion in the books of Maccabees, we are led to reflect on divine power over political systems and the ultimate triumph of justice. The 3rd book of Maccabees transports us to a surprising scenario in which God's protection extends beyond the borders of Israel, reaching Egypt. In this unexpected context, King Ptolemy Rome, after a military victory over Antiochus III, defies the Jews by demanding access to the Holy of Holies in the Temple of Jerusalem. This direct affront to the Jewish faith results in a miraculous event, in which the king is temporarily paralyzed and blinded when he tries to desecrate the sacred place. King Ptolemy's reaction triggers a terrible persecution of the Jews in Alexandria, culminating in a sinister plan to gather the entire Jewish community in the city and publicly execute them under the feet of enraged elephants. Faced with this imminent existential threat, the Jews resort to prayer and fasting, demonstrating an unshakable trust in divine intervention in the darkest moments. The story of the 3rd Maccabean revolt highlights the importance of unwavering faith and hope in divine justice against political oppression. It reminds us that God is above all earthly systems and that his protection is guaranteed to those who call out to him for help. May this extraordinary story inspire us all to trust in divine providence, even in the face of the most difficult adversities. If you want to be inspired by these hidden chapters of the Bible and discover the powerful lessons they offer, stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Leave a like if you found this content interesting. The story of the Maccabees reveals the power of faith, courage, and divine miracles. Share this message with your community so that together we can explore the hidden chapters of the biblical story. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.